All right, what's up? Welcome inside to Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice NBA edition. Corey and Stu back at it after a successful day of talking football yesterday. Stu, I didn't know that you also had the range to handicap NBA contests and things of that nature. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I've been prop betting the NBA every single day for the last 3 years. I look forward to another great season of it again this year. And yeah, it's fun. I'm glad we obviously have the platform up here to talk football one day and then NBA another day. And yeah, I hope we can win some, or NBA futures this year.
Yeah, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest with you. I did the morning show this morning. Now I'm fresh off of turkey bacon and eggs. You know what I'm saying? So I'm feeling good and belly is full. You know what I'm saying? Are you a turkey bacon guy, Stu?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're staying original over here. Yeah, absolutely
no,
not.
Stu, trust me, I'm an original guy too. But once you get a little bit past a certain age, you gotta make sure those arteries don't have too much of that good stuff in it. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, I'm in the turkey bacon stage of my life. But every now and then we'll sneak in a good slib of bacon. Hopefully we don't eat the whole pack. All right, Stu, so I want to start off with talking about, we're going to go from low to high. And I want to start off talking about some teams with win totals in the 20s. And you've been around fantasy, familiar with fantasy and stuff like that forever. So you're familiar with the term post-hype sleeper, right? You know how one draft season, this guy is great, this guy is great, this guy is great. Then he disappoints. Then the next draft season, he becomes a post-hype sleeper. Well, the breakout didn't happen last year, but it could happen this year. Now, in win totals, we really don't have post-hype sleepers. But last season around this time, the Detroit Pistons win total was a win total that everybody thought, I believe it was 27.5. People thought the Detroit Pistons would be at least a 30-something win team, maybe even a team that can compete and flirt with the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference. It didn't happen. Cade Cunningham hurt early in the season, and then the season kind of unraveled. But this year, Monty Williams takes over the team as a new head coach. My man Dwayne Casey, I believe, is in the front office now. This year, the win total dropped from last year. It is 28.5 right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook. And I'm like, is this the year that the Pistons get over that number?
Yeah, no, when you first said that, I thought we were going to the Pistons, and I'm glad we did. I think a guy like Cade Cunningham, maybe he's been forgotten about by a lot of the league, right? Obviously, those injuries, people aren't really maybe giving him credit for being the former number one overall pick and having a good showing. Now we got another year with Ivy, their first round pick from last year as well. A huge coaching upgrade. Obviously, Monty Williams has been with an elite team. He's developed an elite team, and now he has a chance to do it again. So for me, I don't think the Pistons are a play-in team this year. I think this is another stage of their developmental process. But I definitely do think this is a year where they improve on, 17 wins last season, something like that. It was real bad.
Pretty. It wasn't pretty. It didn't get anywhere near close to cashing. But like I said, Cunningham got hurt early. I kind of like the core of this team with Cade, Ivy, Jalen Duren, my man Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart running around scaring people half to death. But I'm like, and I think Monty Williams is a good head coach. So you think there's development, but not 35, 36 win development.
Yeah, you mentioned Duran. That's another very good center right there. Athletic as hell, blocks, great defense. A little bit raw on the offensive side of the ball, but that's obviously something that's going to be developed as time goes on. I agree. I think they continue to get better. It's a team that maybe when we do the show again next year, we're finally talking about a playoff berth.
All right, there you go right there. Let's get into your neck of the woods, the Washington Wizards. Every time I come out there on a Friday to come, hang out, spend some time with the kids. And when I get into town, one of the first things I do is I say, let me see if the Wizards have a game tonight. And then I go down to the Verizon Center area and fight through the smell of marijuana, which is very, very strong in our nation's capital. So I fight through the smell of marijuana, and I go and I sit down and I watch the Wizards. And this year their win total, one of the lowest ones in the league at 24.5. I actually think the Wizards will get over this. It's like, so last year, for example, I was like, this is interesting. they're running the offense through Kyle Kuzma and not Bradley Beal. Kristaps Porzingis is playing good. Solid team, not a playoff team, not horrible, just kind of eh. And I feel like that's what the Wizards are going to be this year. Jordan Poole added to the mix this year. No more Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Kristaps Porzingis going. So definitely looking to take the franchise in a new direction. Is 24.5. Is that anything that interests you in any way or the other with the Wizards?
I mean, I'd like it. You see, I got the Commanders sign behind me. There's a reason there's not a Wizards one, right? It would just bring too much shame at this point. I feel like I'd be roasted on every show I go on. And, like you said, they had some good players last year, but it's time to rebuild. It's time to stop being stuck in the middle, because that's exactly what we were with Bradley Beal there. We were stuck in the middle. We were never making the playoffs. We were never bad enough to get a top 5 lottery pick, so we were just stuck. So for me, I like these decisions. I like that they have a bit of a clean slate now, but I'm not super interested in the over, to be honest. I think this is a full-on rebuild year. We're going to see extremely raw first-round pick Bilal Coulibaly play a little bit more. Apparently, he's going to play anywhere from the 1 through the 3. We got Johnny Davis, a guy who spent most of last year in the summer league, is going to be someone that gets some rotational minutes. It's all about developing these young guys. It's not about getting wins. So I always like to say you want to be on the same page as the head coach when you're making a bet. The head coach isn't out there to win games this year. He's out there to develop guys and build for the future. So for me, it's either an under or a pass.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. I'd probably pass on this one right here, too. And I agree with what you said about the head coach. And I think that's very telling right there. Another one of these teams with the win totals in the 20 is the San Antonio Spurs. They come in 29.5. Victor Wembanyama, obviously, talk of the league. How do you feel? This Victor Wembanyama, is this thing going to be a fraud? Is this guy Bobo?
I don't know if he's Bull, but I'm not on the hype train. I already have my Scoot Henderson Rookie of the Year ticket in. I think Victor is a guy that he'll be fun to watch. Just as I'm sure you as a basketball fan, you just want to see what this guy's got. Because we don't even know.
Because I don't want it to be like the Jets. I don't want them to have all these primetime games and then I'm watching this 7-foot Bobo. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to look at too much Jets without Aaron Rodgers, and I don't want to see too much Victor Wembanyama if he's not playing good, because they're going to try to feature him because it's kind of like a circus type thing, you know what I mean? And with all due respect, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I will say the one thing. I know we talk about this with stars, but load management is going to be a legitimate concern. They've already talked about holding him out of some games, whether it's double headers. When you look at the French league schedule, it is way less aggressive. Those guys are playing once a week out there. So, right, we saw this with some other guys like Sengun, who was the Turkish league MVP before he came in. He had to be held out some games, had to have his minutes restricted down the line. I would not be surprised to see that with Victor Wembanyama this year as well.
But if you're going to come to the NBA, you should be able to handle the NBA workload, right? Or you think it takes some time to get used to?
I would say so, but I don't think that's how the league thinks anymore. I think it's all about the players. It's all about trying to protect them. I don't even know if this is a good strategy to protect them, but that's what they're going to try.
I can tell you it's not a good strategy. You know why? Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah. So you've already seen that they're two main players. They're two star players that were the process. When the going got tough, they don't play. And then when they do play, they weren't in shape. So it's does it really work? You know what I'm saying? Because basically you teach the team to lose, and that it's okay to lose. And then when you have a 3-1 series lead and you lose, it's we thought it was okay to lose. So that's interesting. I don't think that load management, I don't think that whole thing works, whatever. But Greg Popovich, though, that's what makes it intriguing because of how much of a teacher and a coach he is, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing we just talked about the Wizards. Popovich is there to develop these guys for the future. I don't think they're trying to win a championship this year. They've got a bunch of young guys. They've got a lot of defense, right? This is a team with a lot of defensive flexibility. No proven superstars, right? We just saw them pay Devin Vassell big money, kind of keeping the talent. Yeah, in-house, which is interesting. I mean, I like Vassell. I actually have a ticket on him for most improved player this year. I think he's a good shooter.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, he's one of those guys that profiles to take the next step on offense. Who's going to shoot the ball 20 times a game on this team? There's no clear leader. It's going to be a combination of Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Victor Wembanyama. And to be honest, I'm not really buying Victor Wembanyama on defense or on offense,
Well, I'm
sorry,
not
in his
buying that.
rookie year.
Definitely not buying that. That's interesting. I want to take a quick look at that most improved player market now that you mentioned it, because I want to see who I would. Because I want to see, you know how it is. I want to see because now I want to be. I want to get a future on it. Let me see. Shortest odds is Mikal Bridges. You know what I was going to say? I was going to say Tyrese Maxey. He's 10-1. He has the second shortest odds. Jordan Poole 12-1 with the third shortest odds. Cade Cunningham 13-1, fourth shortest odds. You went all the way down there with Devin Vassell. You know, Florida State players are pretty good. They develop well when they get to the next level. That goes to show that good coaching from my man Leonard Hamilton down there at Florida State, running that basketball program for it seemed like 3 decades now. That's interesting. Okay, I can get behind that right there. You know what I'm saying? Anthony Simons could be a guy too, though. He's going to get a lot of uptick in his shots as well this year.
Yeah, no, I think Simons is a good call as well. For me, the worry with a lot of guys at the top of the list is to win most improved player, you not only need to have a narrative shift, right, where you're clearly kind of seen as a better player in the eyes of the league. You need a number shift, right? You
know what you need to do? Hit me. You need to make the All-Star game.
That doesn't hurt. It definitely doesn't hurt.
If you go back, Montrez made the All-Star team the year he won it. Luka, obviously the year he won it. Ja was made his first All-Star team the year he won it. Who won it last year?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, me neither. But so yeah, that's something that to look at right there. Interesting stuff. Okay, I can get with that. So here's the deal, right? This tanking thing, right? You know how you come into a season and we automatically say, okay, this team's tanking, that team's tanking, this team tanking, that team's tanking, and then you're the Arizona Cardinals, and you're like, wait, it's not like they tanking. Then you're Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're Los Angeles Rams, and all like it's no tank job going on. So I want to talk about some NBA teams that could always are always in that range. People say, okay, well, this team could possibly be tanking, and I want to start with the Utah Jazz, who were people the same way they were tanking last year. Their win total coming into this season, I believe, was either 32 or 33.5. No, is it 34?
About 34.
34.5. There you go, right there. 34.5 for the Utah Jazz. What do you think about it? Lauri Markkanen won the most, and guess what? Made his first All-Star team last year. So there's the go right there. Thank you very much, Keith. But yeah, let's talk about this team right here, this Utah Jazz team. They got some interesting pieces on this team, particularly for fantasy.
Yeah, no, I like the Jazz. I think this is one of the lower team totals that I saw when I was looking through on first glance. I think I would definitely lean over. I mean, we just saw what Lauri did last year, and it's not even like they're necessarily relying on him to be a guy that scores 28, 27 points per game. He was doing it towards the end of the year. It's good to know that he has that in his bag as just a switchable outside four. You don't see that skill set too often, especially we always thought of Lauri Markkanen as an outside sniper, but he kind of proved he has a mid-range. He can score in the post a little bit more. They have some interesting pieces. Obviously, this is a team that I don't have too many problems with. Sometimes you talk about addition by subtraction, right? And getting Rudy Gobert out of town, Donovan Mitchell, who's a great player, out of town and to change your scenery. This was a young, hungry team last year. Now they've got some wins under their belt. I only see them improving this year, to be honest.
That's good, interesting stuff right there. All right, so I can dig that. I would get behind that Utah Jazz over as well. What about the Toronto Raptors? That number about 35, 36, depending on where you're doing your shopping at. Obviously, they were a team that was rumored to be in the Damian Lillard talks, but it looks like they're bringing their same squad back with OG and Pascal and Scotty and the gang right there. How do we feel about I'm about to say Tampa. Oh my God, I'm so in NFL mode. How do we feel about the Toronto Raptors? Listen, I'm always I think the Raptors under the coach is different. Nick Nurse is not there, so that could be a different. But the coaches that coach, that backup, that assistant coach that was on Memphis last year, he coached a little bit while Memphis coach was had COVID, and he took over the team. He took over the team a couple times the past couple years. He's a good up and coming head coach. I don't think he's as talented as a head coach or a leader as Nick Nurse is. Now, he could get there, but I think Darko could do a good job. I would go over on Toronto.
For me, the problem is Toronto just seems like a team without an identity right now. Like, obviously, we know what the Nick Nurse identity is. It's all the starters are going out there. We're switching. We're playing good defense for 40 minutes, and you guys are going to win us the game, right? That was their philosophy. It'll be interesting to see if Toronto even has any bench players because they haven't used them for the last 4 years. So, for me, it's like, are any of these guys good enough to really take them on the surge, right? Is a guy like Scotty going to develop and take that next step? Does a guy like Pascal Siakam want to be here? He's been floated in every big trade over the last 2 years. I can't really tell if he wants to stay in Toronto or if maybe the team is looking to upgrade. We've heard OG Anunoby and pretty much every trade rumor there has been as well over these last couple of years. It's just one of those.
Hey, Nakam and never trade him, though. He could be a good piece for somebody. So you think they could throw the towel in down the stretch and start trading away their assets?
I think they could. I think OG profiles it with his defensive versatility as that kind of team where a team maybe thinks they're one piece away, right? And they think that's the guy we need on our playoff roster. Almost you're hoping for the Mikal Bridges kind of evolution of the defense is already there. If we give him more reps, if we give him more on-ball opportunities, then the scoring and offense will come as well. So I don't know. It's an interesting team. I like the talent on the team, but I'm kind of worried, like you said, maybe a fire sale at the end of the year, a team without an identity, a new coach. It's a lot of unknowns for me.
All right, Chicago Bulls, Orlando Magic. Bulls number 37.5, Magic number 36.5. Who is more likely to go over their win total between the Orlando Magic and the Chicago Bulls? I was watching the episode of Bill Simmons' podcast, right? And he talked about how the Chicago Bulls are forever in the middle. They're always in the middle. When are they going to get to the bottom or to the top?
Yeah, and I mean, the Lonzo Ball stuff, obviously going to miss all of this year. I mean, so he was really developing into a great player, too. That was a shame, just as a basketball fan. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the Bulls. I mean, I don't think they're built to be like a great modern NBA team. The Vucevic acquisition was interesting. It's not looked amazing. He's been a solid center for them, but has he been that piece to really elevate them to the next level? Is DeRozan going to be able to step up when it matters most, right? I mean, LaVine has been a pretty good player over these last couple of years, but he hasn't been elite, right? He hasn't had that Donovan Mitchell, oh my God, this guy's the savior of our franchise kind of season that maybe they hope. So for me, I'm kind of out on the Bulls, to be honest. I don't really want any part of their overs.
Really, you're just done with the Bulls altogether, huh?
They've got talent, but it doesn't mesh well. It really doesn't. And to be honest, the two teams you mentioned, I'd be more interested in Orlando. I mean, they're a young team, a bunch of scrappy guys, a lot of defense, a lot of rotational pieces. Maybe not a superstar quite yet, but I mean, Paolo is looking like he's on his way. Yeah, exactly. And then I like some of the pieces they have around there as well. I mean, they obviously have so many young guards. One of them is probably going to be traded in the next couple of years. But I think Orlando is going in the right direction.
Yeah, I like the direction Orlando Magic are going in as well. I'm a big league pass guy. Are you a league pass guy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I sit down there from 7 o'clock all the way to 2 o'clock in the morning and watch those basketball games on those local markets. So I do like a league pass power rankings, right? The best league pass, the best local broadcast in the NBA is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Ooh, interesting. I haven't heard that. But I mean, I didn't watch as much of the Cavs. When I watched the League Pass games, I watched the Wizards at 7. So I'm watching the late night West Coast high offense. Yeah. The Warriors is normally my go-to over there.
Yeah. All right, cool. I can dig that. Yeah, I'm not really watching the Wizards. Sorry.
It's only me. I think I'm the only one that watches all the games. That's not on staff of the team. So if the Wizards are listening right now, give me a call, man. I'm here. I'm watching.
All right, there you go. Wizards, if you need a super fan, there you go right there. All right, here we go. You ready, Stu? I got a banger for you right here, right? The Indianapolis Pacers, right? Not only am I in on the over, right? I think it's 38.5. Yeah, 38.5. Not only am I in on the over, Group A of the in-season tournament has the Indianapolis Pacers at plus 550 to win that group. I think the Pacers win the group. I think the Pacers are a middle of the Eastern Conference team this year.
Yeah, I mean, another year with Halliburton and Sabonis kind of building up on that chemistry. Obviously, it looks like Miles Turner is now kind of committed. He's fully back. He said this year is going to be his first All-Star game, right? It looks like this is a team that got to build up some chemistry last year. They've got a lot of young pieces. Even a guy like Isaiah Jackson off the bench is someone I've always been a huge fan of in the steals and blocks department as a great defensive player. It's a young team. They've got depth, but they do have some veterans. Obviously, Sabonis has been around the block a couple times. He's been in the playoffs as well. So I can't hate on that at all. I think this Pacers, they're going to be one of the more intriguing teams. I'm excited to continue to watch Halliburton develop into the superstar that I think a lot of us see in his future.
Top 5 fantasy draft pick this year.
Oh yeah, I mean, a guy that can give you 20-10 on a nightly basis is not common, especially to add on those 2 steals as well. I'm a big Halliburton fan.
So they're a 40-win team this year.
I think that's very possible. I think they're a team that has a higher floor than most as well. Like, I don't think they're going to be one of those teams that's a surprise 20-win team or anything. I think their range of outcomes is pretty confidently in that 35 to 40 range, in my opinion.
All right, cool. No, I agree with that. I'm behind the Pacers. I watched the Pacers a lot last year too. And when Halliburton is playing, they're very difficult to beat. You know what I'm saying? They tend to get off to a slow start. They're a good team to bet live too. Like as somebody who rooted for the New York Knicks in my youth, and I have this about the Indiana Pacers. But hey, listen, I like what I see so far from the Pacers these past couple years. So shout out to the Pacers. I've never liked anything. You talking about the middle of the Eastern Conference? That's where the Atlanta Hawks live at. Year after year after year after year. This is not a top team in the East. This is a middle of the East team. Quinn Snyder, the latest head coach to get in there. Trae Young has the ability to run head coaches off. But listen, Young, there's so much of this in Atlanta depends on what Young is. Is he a coach killer? Is he an all-star player? 42.5 is the win total. Where's the Atlanta Hawks?
I don't want anything to do with this one either. I mean, when I first saw that trade too, because we've been hearing the Hawks are going to make a big splash, DeJounte Murray was never the name that I would have ever expected. I mean, bringing another guard into play with Trae Young on that team was just a surprising move in my eyes. And then even this offseason, we saw every single report saying it looks like the Hawks are going to do something big again. Last year didn't work. They're going to shake things up. That didn't happen. We didn't shake anything up. We're running it back from last year. And a guy like Hunter, is he going to take that next step?
If he can stay on the field consistently, I mean, he's a good player. To me, he's their second best player. But it's like he's so hit or miss with his health.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's someone I'd like to see play a full season. I completely agree. I think he could be a legitimate playoff contender. But at the end of the day, we gotta talk about the star player, and you mentioned it, Trae Young. Is this a guy that you think can lead a team to the playoffs, to the promised land? Is this a guy that you're trusting your franchise with? For me, he's not, right? I mean, when you have that frame, we got to be putting up Steph Curry numbers, right? And I mean, we're not, and then he's one of the biggest defensive liabilities in the league on the other side of the ball. So he's going to have to step it up. We're going to have to see that New York swagger he had in the playoffs, because it feels like it's been a minute since we've seen that.
Villainous Trae Young. At one point last season, and I'm quite sure you would probably know this, his 3-point made prop dropped to 0.5. I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, if he don't hit threes, what the hell is he?
Yeah,
like you said, a defensive liability and a coach killer. He's a very intriguing player because he's very talented. All right, these are 2 good ones right here. Well, we got 3 good Western Conference ones back to back, all coming in at 44.5. The Pelicans, the Timberwolves, and the Thunder. Zion, Anthony Edwards, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the leaders of those 3 teams. Zion's supposed to be the leader. Rough offseason for Zion, you know what I'm saying? Zion's a man after my own. Now, let me stop. But listen, when it comes to those 3 teams sitting at 44.5 in that Western Conference, which one is the best and who gets over their win total?
Yeah, I mean, it might be the Pelicans, at least if Zion's listening and he heard your turkey bacon information at the beginning. Someone needs to let him know, right? Someone needs to let him know. But it's tough because I think the Pelicans are really good, and I think they could be really, really good. I bet on them preseason last year, but now that I have been a person that's bet on them preseason, I never want to do it again, right?
Yeah,
because I don't want to bet on health, right? That's not a fun thing to do, whether you're a winning sports bettor, no matter what. You don't want to bet on health, and that's what it feels like. So I like the potential of the Pelicans. But for me, if you believe in this team, bet them to win the Western Conference. Don't bet their win total, because it's either going to look really good or really bad early. And also, Brandon Ingram, kind of a little bit of a shit show on the international stage, right? Wasn't playing very well, relegated to the bench. Maybe that was just a chemistry issue. I don't know, but I'm very curious to see how this core kind of comes together, because something just feels off right now.
Yeah, I'm quite sure Zion's not the only one on that team with extracurriculars going on like that as well. So, like you said, it could be something going on in there. I think there could be a culture issue with the New Orleans Pelicans. So this is a team I'm gonna stay away from. But people love the Thunder though.
Yeah, the Thunder. The problem is this just feels like a high line. I like the Thunder too.
It
I mean,
does seem like a high line, right?
right?
It's like they overshot. They had success last year. Now this has been a terrific ATS team for about 5 years now.
Yeah.
But this right here feels like, all right, the market may be over adjusted to the Thunder.
Also, it's easy to be a great ATS team last year when they were like 8.5-point underdogs for the first half of the year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they just got no respect until they finally kind of earned it, which I'm not trying to discredit right now. SGA, his evolution has been awesome to follow. I'm curious how he looks in the playoffs. You know, I want to see him in a different kind of environment, but he's improving everywhere, right? The three-point shooting, I saw a stat this morning. He went from 27% to 37% on step-back threes last season. Apparently, that was one of the biggest things he worked on. So I love SGA. I mean, Giddey has shown to be another good young player. The problem is, I think with all the draft picks they have, with all the young guys they have, let's get a veteran in the room. Let's get a leader. Let's get someone with some experience. I would have been looking for a Brook Lopez this offseason. They were consistently not that Brook Lopez was available, but you get what I mean. That kind of player to anchor them on defense. They've had center defensive problems for years. They're running out 6'9" Jalen Williams, and then the other Jalen Williams, who's 6'10" as their power forward and center last year. So I'd like it if they got a big guy. They're just going to continue to get attacked in the paint. But man, speaking of Williams, that kid was awesome last year. It's a good young team, but for me, this win total feels very fair. It feels like they're already priced as a very strong team.
Yep, it's right on the number. So I would agree. I would look for something else in the market if you want to get behind that team right there in Oklahoma City. New York Knicks, I see 44.5. I see 45.5. So if I buy back in, Stu, they're going to win 19 games. If I say, you know what, I can't deal with the Knicks, then I'm going to be asking the Knicks fans, can I come to the parade? You know what I'm saying? So you go ahead and you give the analysis on the Knicks. I have to stay out.
I like it. I like the over. I mean, I like Brunson. I think Brunson is a fantastic addition, not just for the regular season, but more importantly for the postseason. That's a guy that wins you playoff games. And I know we're talking about the regular season, but to me, that is very important. And speaking of regular season, Tibbs is the regular season coach, right? I mean, that is what he's known for. We talked about Nick Nurse playing his guys 40 minutes a game. It's the same thing in New York. Your starters are going out there. We've never heard of load management, right? We are in one of those situations where let your guys play, and that's exactly what he does. He is not, sitting down Julius or RJ or any of those guys and giving them a break. They're going hard every single day. So for me, it's one of those situations where I like them. I think this is a good team. I think they're a team that cares about regular season wins, which is unfortunately kind of rare in the modern NBA, where you can't even tell with some of the injury stuff, the motivation. It's hard to even tell what these coaches, long-term game plan is. But for me, we know the Knicks are going to go out there and give it 100% every night. They've got a good, talented squad. I'm not sure if the upside is there to actually win the whole thing, right? I mean, when you get into the playoffs, that's when it gets a little bit scary. But in terms of the regular season, I like them a lot.
All right, so check this out. Last year, right? If they would have got past Miami, they took Miami to 6 games. If they would have got past Miami, I think they would have beat the Celtics.
It would have been a fun series. I think the thing is, it's just about like which one of the secondary pieces steps up in a major way for you? Like, is it Randall? Is it Barrett? Because Barrett is still the question mark for me. Like, I still haven't really bought in that he even can be like the third best. Like, even if you swap out an RJ Barrett for like an OG Anunoby, who we just talked about earlier, I might even be bad. Right? That could be an interesting. They're a little too close to maybe make that trade, but you get what I mean. That kind of like slight upgrade right there. But I really can't hate on that. I think the Knicks, especially with Brunson at the helm and his isolation scoring, their team defensive ability, Mitchell Robinson being one of the more underrated centers. When he's out there and healthy, that guy is a beast in the paint. Nobody wants to mess with that. So it's a well-built team. I just don't know if they can win it all necessarily.
I feel like I'm going too high. Where's the Cleveland Cap? 50.5. Hold on, I'll get back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. You didn't see this what happened to Cleveland in the playoffs last year? Let's talk Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks, both coming at 45.5. Obviously, John Morant missed the first 25 games of the season, but Memphis is built to play with who they have on the floor. They bring in Marcus Smart. Jaren Jackson has established himself as a top NBA player. Desmond Bane. They're well coached. What I worry about, the same thing you worry about coming into last year. The youth on the roster not taking road trips seriously. That was a major problem for this team last year. It shouldn't be this year.
I mean, you'd think after a whole year of the whole world, yelling at him and letting him know that something would change. And I mean, bringing in veterans, I saw they got Derrick Rose as well, who I saw in the media yesterday was saying, I'm not here to be anyone's friend. I'm here to push these guys, and I hope he does, right? Because like you said, we need a focused Memphis team, especially if you're betting on their overs. Or like you said, I mean, it was whenever they were on the road, I was never on Memphis last year. And it was a lot of bettors doing the same thing. So I think the thing is Jaw's going to miss time, right? And I don't really love betting overs on teams that their star player is going to be suspended for part of the season, right? That's not something I'm really looking forward to doing. So, and then you got a guy like JJJ who can be spectacular at times, but also the guy fouls out in like 25 minutes and half of his games.
He can have some lethargicness to his game. You know what I'm saying? He can kind of be like, oh, not today. You know what I'm saying? He's a little bit of, listen, when he steps up and he's motivated, he's fantastic. But you nailed it. He can foul out a game in no time. Very sloppy with his fouls.
Yeah, and then I this is a little bit of a nitpick, but I'd like for some of the younger guys that they spent first-round picks on, Zaire Williams off of the bench.
He was Zaire last year.
Nothing, right? He was looking promising 2 years ago, but it does feel like maybe some of the younger guys that they'd hope would be taking these next steps on the bench unit haven't done that necessarily as well either. So I like the Grizzlies. They're a good squad. Desmond Bane, a fantastic player, very consistent, even though he kind of had a down year from the three-point line. It's a good team. It's a strong team, but it's probably a pass on the win total for me.
Yeah, I would pass on the win total as well. What about the Dallas Mavericks? No, right? It's so tough because I think they could be one of the best teams in the West. But then I'd be like, I don't know what's going on out there.
Apparently, their plan this year is to start Lively at center and Omax Prosper at power forward on a team that's supposed to be a playoff contender, right? Their plan, at least that's what they're saying. They're starting the preseason with this lineup. If all goes well, that's going to be their regular season lineup. Maybe they're talking out of two sides of their mouth. Maybe Grant Williams, is not moved to the 3. He comes in at the 4. But it's just not enough depth, right? They have 2 really, really good players and then not much around them. And the fact that we're trying to start 2 rookies that we just drafted and try to patch those holes immediately is very scary. I mean, Lively, a guy out of Duke, was very raw last season. This guy's, 19 years old, and he's going to be your starting center coming into the season. That's a tough ask. I love Luka. I want Luka to be in the playoffs. That's good for the game of basketball. He is an incredibly fun player to watch, but I don't know. I don't have a strong take. I don't think I can really bet the Mavs overs.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't go over this number right here. I think it's a little bit too high. Clippers and Lakers are 2 LA teams. Clippers 46.5, Lakers 47.5. Let's start with the Clippers. Obviously, James Harden's supposed to come to camp this week. He's supposed to show up. Might be the day he's supposed to show up. So maybe this James Harden Clippers thing, they probably be like, you know what, it's not going to happen, or at least it's not going to happen yet. What do the Clippers? You can't bet the over on the Clippers. Them dudes ain't going to play.
Yeah, it's exactly how I feel as well. And it's a shame. The Clippers are a team that I love. I want them to succeed. I really did. I bet them to win it all last year. I love Kawhi Leonard. I think he's the most underappreciated player in basketball for what he can do on both sides of the court. And I think Paul George is also underappreciated for what he can do on both sides. This is a team that legit has 2 guys that can give you an efficient 28 on any given night and lock down your best player on the other side, right? That is a rare skill in the NBA. The problem is that it only happens twice a year, right? We don't get to see it in the regular season. It comes out for 1 or 2 playoff series. They've got no chemistry because nobody played all year and they get eliminated. So it feels like I've been down this path before. I just did it last year.
Yeah, we have been down this path before. This Laker number is too high, though.
Yeah, that's an under. It's the popular teams. It happens in every sport. I mean, Giants are the perfect example over in the NFL where these teams that are publicly esteemed consistently are set too high. We're going to talk about the Warriors in a minute. That's another team I feel the same way about. The Lakers, how many games are you getting out of LeBron? How many games are you getting out of AD? I like the young pieces. Rui Hachimura, a guy from DC I've watched grow and develop.
Yeah.
Super happy to see him stay there. Austin Reeves, another good young player. That's what you need when you're trying to build a sustainable playoff team. But in terms of regular season wins, it's just a complete pass. I'll probably play the under.
This is the year. This range right here, this Laker Golden State range is an under range. That range down there where we talked about teams like we talked earlier about teams like let me go back down here and take a look, because you see what you got to understand is there's going to be like the Pelicans, Tim. That range is a kind of an over range if you want to get on one of those teams. Now these teams we're talking about, like the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, they don't need to win 50 games. They can go into the playoffs with their veterans as a 6-7 seed and be fine. So I'm not really going to bet overs on those teams right there. Speaking of the Golden State Warriors, 47.5 is the total. But like I was saying, why would the Golden State Warriors either win 50, 55 games? They know they can come in there as seed 6 and be in the NBA championship.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I agree. Exact same thought process right here. I already bet the Warriors under. I got it 48.5. Like I said, this is a team I watched a lot, almost every day last year. I don't have a problem with it. The line just to me felt too high. I mean, how many games, like we said, can we consistently count on this core to play, right? They're not getting any younger. And in fact, they shipped out their guy that essentially they could plug in and account for an automatic 25, 28 points per game when their stars were out. Right now, they've got Chris Paul in the lineup. The offensive game has been diminishing over these last couple of years. I'm curious what happens when the injury bug hits this team. How do they adapt? Who steps up? Because for me, there's not really an obvious name, to be completely honest.
Yeah, like I said, we know what they can do in the postseason. I'll wait for that. The Cleveland Cavaliers. 50.5. This is an under right here, right?
I wanted to bet the over so bad until I saw the number. That was kind of the problem. Is the number
high, right?
It's really high, yeah. And I mean, like if they had the same number as the Warriors, I'd be betting the over. I
agree. If they had the same numbers, if they was 45, 46, I would take the over. 50 seems high.
Exactly. It's one of those teams. We saw how good the defensive unit is, right? It's a strong defense. I mean, based in Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley, or sorry, not Jaren Jackson. Whoa, Allen. There we go.
Yeah,
Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Mobley at the power forward. That is a staunch unit right there in terms of paint protection, in terms of shutting down other bigs. Garland on the outside, a very good defensive point guard as well. Okoro off the bench. Now they've added a little bit of shooting. That was really the big problem. Who's going to score outside of Donovan Mitchell? I know Max Strus and Georges Niang aren't flashy additions, but these are guys that can come off the bench and shoot, 40% from three. You're not asking them to do too much. So for me, it's a good regular season team. It's their last season, arguably, with Donovan Mitchell. He has an opportunity to be a free agent after this year. Everything I've heard does not indicate he plans on staying in Cleveland for the long term. So I think they're going to try.
Figure out a way to get to New York.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it, but it seems like where it's going right now. So for me, if I'm Cleveland, I think they think this is kind of their winning window. I think they might even make another acquisition if needed down the line. It's a good regular season team. I'm not taking the under, to be honest. I like this team. Yeah. Just the number feels fair, so it's probably a pass.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned that number feeling fair, and I want to get into these teams right here. These are the teams with win totals over 50. The Suns, the Nuggets, right? The Suns, the Nuggets, the Bucks, the top teams in the NBA. I would not take the over on any of these teams, right? Not to say that these teams can't be 52, 53, 54 win teams, but what you have to understand is when these teams get to that last 2 weeks of the season, if they have 48, 49 wins, they don't really need – if they've locked up their playoff position, they're going to rest their guys, which could cause you to miss out on going over that win total. So I'd be careful with these teams. When you look at the top teams – with the win totals over 50, Phoenix, Denver, and Milwaukee. What do you think of those bunches?
Yeah, it's what you said. It's not even the end of the year anymore. These guys throw games on back-to-backs. I'm not saying it in a conspiracy way. They bench their good players on back-to-back. And this happened multiple times for multiple good teams last year without even injury, right? We just saw teams put in their backup lineup and kind of throw in the towel on the second leg of back-to-backs. That's the modern NBA right now. I love betting good teams overs in most sports, right? Last year, my two biggest bets were the Chiefs and the Bills over because in the NFL, every game matters. In the NBA right now, apparently at least, every game does not matter. So I'm with you. I have a very hard time taking these numbers. The only one I might consider would maybe be the Celtics. To me, they just profile as such a good regular season game. With some of the weaker teams on the back end of the East, I could see them rolling through. But for some of these older teams on the West especially, or even a guy like the Nuggets, right? They have the highest team total in the league. They didn't even cash that number last year.
They didn't catch it last year, exactly.
So it's very hard for me.
No reason to. What last one we'll leave on this one, because I think this is one is interesting for a higher win total. The Philadelphia 76ers at 49.5. Philadelphia is a 50-win talent team, no doubt about it. If Philadelphia wins 50, though, I kind of feel like, okay, they'll be out in the first, second round. I don't know. Handicap Philadelphia coming into the season for me. Nick Nurse, the new head coach out there, but you know that the powers of that be, the Philadelphia, it's a disaster. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean the James Harden situation is not making it any better, right? I mean this is the exact opposite of the Nick Nurse mentality, by the way. The team over everything, guys are going to go out there and we're going to grind our asses off. It's the exact opposite of what we've seen from Philadelphia over these last couple of years. I mean, is Embiid going to be playing 40 minutes a game? 38 minutes a game? Because if he is, you might want to just get that MVP bet in right now, no matter how many games he plays, because that would be insane. So there's a lot of question marks. To me, this is not an over. There's too many question marks. No Harden. Who's going to step up outside of Embiid? Why have we not made any major changes to our roster that's failed year in, year out? I mean, the coaching change should be a big deal. I mean, Doc, I love the guy as a basketball fan my whole life, but it's not been pretty these last couple of years. So the coaching upgrade should be a big deal. But the question is, does a guy like Maxey just take that next step to stardom? If you're betting the over, that's pretty much what you're betting on at this point, in my opinion.
There you go right there. Sportstopia.io is the website. Get all this good NBA information. Who else is going to get you ready for the upcoming season? We got you covered right here on Sportstopia.io. Check out the website right now. It's all new, brand new stuff, but we got you covered this NBA season. You can also hit that optimizer and start getting ready for your NBA DFS contest. And then, like you say, you got football, baseball going on right now. So let's get this money. For my man Stu, is Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Let's go. NBA season coming up. Sportstopia, Fantasy Fire and Ice. We out.